All right. I think I think this is the last one. And maybe even not recorded in order. I might not post them in order. So maybe I shouldn't mention this the last one. F it. So let us have this. This is not gonna be the last one. I got one more, but the next one's gonna be short. All right, boom. I just want to make this last point or revisit the discussion around this Diddy documentary. There is a lot of conversation coming up. And something I got to talk about that I thought was crazy was the notion of the destiny swap thing. Like we talked about that with the Glorilla and Megan the Stallion thing, where people was like, "Oh, a lot of people are talking smack about Megan. You got you another son." Like, sorry, wildin'. Um, but I wanted to talk about this because in psychology there is a thing that is an actual thing, not necessarily destiny swapping, but this notion of masking, right? Um, I don't know if anybody has seen this movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley. And this movie is with Matt Damon and Jude Law. And Matt Damon, his name was Tom Ripley, and Jude Law, his name was Dickie, right? Long story complicated. This took place in like Italy. Like Matt Damon was asked by a rich father, which was Dickie's pops, to go to Italy to go get his son because he was pursuing all of this stuff, but he wasn't taking life seriously. He wanted him to inherit the business and all this other stuff. But Dickie wasn't with the shits. He was like, "Yo, I'm a spoiled rich kid. I got money. I want to do music, all this other stuff." So it was this big thing. Tom was a guy that would actively meet people and just lie about who he was, right? Arguably psychopathic, but it was the that inappropriate cinematic dramatization representation of psychopath or psychopathy, if you will, right? Like making it look like psychopaths are emotional, but they're not. Anyway, what happened is that when Tom took his ass to Italy, it ended up being that he was running around with Dickie, became friends with him, was letting Dickie know that his pops is looking for him and wanted an update and that sort of thing. And they became friends on that basis. And Tom very suddenly just started to act like Dickie and take over his life. And, he started to off his friends and all that other stuff and like took on this new identity. And it was so crazy because it worked out that, which is wild in context, is like Tom reporting back to the pops and with everything going the way that it did, and Dickie went missing. So nobody found him. Then when they did find him, they confirmed his body was on the river and everything else, and it looked like he had unalived himself. And the perception was that Dickie was battling his sexuality and that he had some sort of love interest for Tom that just wasn't found out. And the father, because of the time period in which the movie was created, wanted to keep that a secret. And in essence, Tom inherited Dickie's estate and became wealthy and took on the life of Dickie moving forward. And so when I watched the Diddy documentary, I'm like, oh shit, this is really what happened. And so what's important or what I want to capture, this is the birth. Like when we watch Diddy and the conversation around the fact that he was being abused and that he was, I hate to say it like this, but he was a little bit of a Poindexter like throughout his life. And you could tell by the knock knees that he was a Poindexter, right? And he never really got to be that teenager that was popular, but that meant something to him. That was an aspiration to him. He was getting beat up in the house and he probably was getting roughed up at school. And it transformed him into this version of person that was inside of what I've seen called the dark triad, right? Where it's antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, Machiavellism, or psychopathy, right? Like this culmination of stress creating this person that's dangerous because they never had an opportunity to feel like they were special or worthwhile. And the insatiability of being good enough, right? That imposter syndrome that lingers makes them dangerous over time. And this is what happened. Like watching the documentary play out. So when he had that first incident happen at City Tech, where there was just this stampede and all of these people died, but Simultaneous to that catastrophe, there was this mark or this tick in his popularity or people wanting to see or be around him. That notion that people died so that they can see me pushed him to create a bigger and bigger fallacy of invincibility that made him bring all of these artists together. And when he saw people, and this is the tough part of it, right? Because the talent is what people want to see. And he didn't have any special talent. He didn't have any special talent. His talent was marketability, literally. And it's that thing of masking, knowing people's desires. And this is why abusers are particularly dangerous, because at the heart of most abusers is the person that was never really good enough. And they can spot that on folks so well, right? Again, this notion of masking and realizing that I'm not good enough, or this idea that my life goes this way because I am imperfect, or I don't have this to offer, or I don't have this talent, or because I can't sing, I can't dance, I'm not super athletic, I'm not tall. This is the stuff that makes them socially inept, right? And I don't think that anything he was born with anything wrong with him. I genuinely think that his mom like was knocking him upside his head a bit too much and a bit too early, and it created this monster that she never had the capacity to really regulate. But I think that she was more enamored at the idea that he became popular and became this socialite that was influential and could move through all of these rooms, because that was something that she was looking forward to. And I'm sure that she has a story that we can look at and understand and even empathize with, right? But this is the nature of attaching to folks that have hurt, or being a crutch to the pain of people. And you know what? Watching people like Diddy, right, who had the capacity to navigate his world at that time, this is like the parallel universe, in my opinion, right, of all of the red pill folks that you see now. And he was just able to optimize the music industry. And especially with the idea that bravado and things like that is what people love, right? People was like, yo, his energy is unmatched, right? But that can be easily performed and nobody questioned it, right? The desire to see Black people be successful really made people enablers rather than loving him with accountability. Because there was a bunch of folks that absolutely served as enablers in that space. They understood his background, they understood where he came from, they understood how challenging it was for him. And in essence, they didn't lash out. They didn't tell him that he was wilding. They didn't say, yo, I'm not participating in none of this. They, too much of it had been propelled. And I've seen somebody say this before where they say complicitness, right? Being quiet is serving the purpose of the harm of others, right? Where it's like, this is why we need Black therapists, Black doctors, Black police officers, Black senators. We need people that have walked our road to represent us in these places, because no voice is as bad as having the antagonist. There's no representation. And more, with sitting with this, the parallel universe is this red pill dynamic, right? Like where we're watching all of these people, like again, the Nick Fuentes, the Myron Gaines, the Stevie Knight, these people that have emerged, and all of us kind of have these, the academics, we've had these conversations with, we know that they didn't have lifestyles that were I'm trying not to be mean. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. They didn't have the childhood that represented their exceptionality, right? And so now that they have gotten their hands on it, they've absolutely lost control. And here inside of capitalism as a structure, we kind of talked about this in our last video. Capitalism and narcissism, these sorts of like socially inept personalities out, because socially inept personalities work well here because the extreme individualism thrives in places that are warm and cozy for narcissism capitalism, where they can go up the ladder and show how fantastic they are, and it doesn't matter who gets hurt in the meantime, right? Another thing that I want to mention that I'm trying to be careful about is the homoeroticism that happens with this personality type. I don't want to, I'm by no means suggesting that this is a byproduct of that. I'm talking about the notion of conquering people, where that insatiability kind of bleeds into even how they portray and handle themselves sexually, or that they repress that dynamic because there is a certain sort of man that they have to project or be in order to be respected in these spaces. And I feel like creating enough space and opportunity for folks to be themselves is so much more important, because now we are starting to understand or get a bigger picture on the dangers of not letting people be safe being exactly who they are. Not every person that doesn't get to live their fullest life as themselves turn that anger and frustration inward. There is a good portion of people that turn it outward, and they are dangerous. My perspective. But the Diddy documentary was nuts. It was very, very well done. Without a doubt, 50 Cent is a hater, but you know what? He's right. And I'm glad that he told the story. I seen another person, the juror, came up, and people are mad at this juror in some cases, right? And they're like, oh, she's fangirling. And I don't think that people understand the significance of the prosecution dropped the ball on that case. And I say that with my whole chest because a good lawyer's job is supposed to be that they make you question your purview and your moral compass. They make you question, like, is that wrong? Is that this? Is that the reality of it is that they should have never anchored a racketeering case on Cassie alone. Did she have some solid evidence of what was going on? Yes. But what did they do? They attacked her personally, and they made her culpable in a dynamic that was riddled with domestic violence and abuse and exploitation. And they used that as justification that it is DV, it is not this. And it was really, really hard to make the case otherwise. They did not have enough for what they were bringing him up on charges for. They didn't. They rushed it. They did too much. They released the shit on CNN. They fucking raided his house and they did all of this stuff. And they put themselves in a position that they could not hold his ass to the fire. And double jeopardy laws make it almost impossible for him to be brought up on charges again. We gotta and so this is how come, yes, 50 Cent is a hater, but he's absolutely right. Because there's a reality around the fact that there are still people discussing Diddy. Waka Flocka came out and called 50 a snitch. Ja Rule coming out and saying, oh, you don't care about the victims. Listen to me and listen to me clear. You do not have to like the messenger, but the message still applies. 50 did the right thing. And he's still a hater. Two things can be true at the same time. I am glad that he told the story. And I won't sit here and tell y'all no joke. I don't know if accountability is going to hit Diddy the way that it's supposed to. I don't. I think that he needs some help, like real, real help. I feel bad for the people that have interacted with him because if I'm being honest, I have dealt with my share of narcissistic, abusive workplace bosses. And even down to that, prosecution failed to prepare the witnesses properly because they weren't equipped with the psychological beatdown that they went through and how the mania that can be activated from the stress can appear a little bit psychotic in cross examination because the prosecution did not prepare them for what the defense was going to do because the defense's only job was to make them look crazy, make them look disgruntled. And if they were in an abusive workplace, it's easy to send people over the edge. They didn't prepare them properly. That case was not handled the way that it needed to be handled. And that's the nature of a person that is effectively abusive. They make the victims of them look crazy. Maybe one of these days I'll tell y'all a bit more story about my own personal experience. But in the meantime, you'll tell me what you think. Did y'all watch the documentary? How do you feel about it? Do you feel like there's more to tell? Do you feel like Diddy's gonna come home and he's going to be like not quite a martyr, but like this representation of black excellence and survival? Did his mogul status get a little bit bigger? Right? Like, what are you looking forward to? Tell me about it. We'll talk soon.